Florida's housing market was the envy of the nation. Prices soaring, buyers queuing, investors clamoring for a piece of paradise. But now, in a stunning reversal, sellers are yanking homes off the market rather than lowering prices. In the third quarter of 2025, active listings shot to 127,109 homes, up 24.5% from the same period last year. The surge isn't limited to Miami or Tampa. It stretches from the Panhandle to the Keys, reshaping the entire real estate landscape. New construction, lingering pandemic-era flips, and a stream of would-be sellers all converge, crowding the market with choices. Florida's housing market, once a runaway train, now finds itself gridlocked at a crossroads of supply and hesitation. For buyers, every extra day a home sits unsold adds leverage. The days of frantic bidding and waived inspections are gone. Now buyers arrive with lists of demands: lower price, seller-paid closing costs, prepaid insurance premiums, even repairs for roofs or appliances. The longer a property lingers, the more likely it is to attract a bargain hunter. Sellers, insulated by pandemic equity and sub-4% mortgages, hold their ground. The result? A market where asking prices hover just below their pandemic-era peaks, while buyers face a very different reality. These are not families forced to sell. They're owners with options. When offers come in below last year's highs, the answer is often a polite no. Statewide, 55% of sellers rejected offers that dipped even slightly under 2022 prices this summer, according to brokerage surveys and agent reports. In Miami, 1 out of every 2 listings that lingered past 45 days was pulled off the market, not discounted. Insurance, once an afterthought for Florida homeowners, now dominates every conversation about buying or selling. In Broward County, the average annual premium sits at $6,291, a figure that eclipses property taxes for many and outpaces wage growth by a wide margin. Across Miami-Dade and Palm Beach, quotes routinely top $7,000 for older or coastal homes, with some policies running north of $10,000. For families on fixed incomes and first-time buyers alike, the math is unforgiving. Premium hikes aren't a one-off. They arrive with every renewal, and there's no guarantee the policy will be there next year. 6 insurance companies have failed or exited since late 2024. Orion Insurance was liquidated in July 2025, following the collapse of Haven Property and Casualty just 2 months earlier. Each exit sends a shockwave through the market. Tens of thousands of homeowners scramble for new coverage only to find fewer options and higher rates. Lenders, wary of insurability risks, stall closings or pull financing altogether. Deals collapse overnight. Sellers who thought they could wait out the market now face a different threat. A property that can't be insured is a property that can't be sold. Citizens Property Insurance, Florida's so-called insurer of last resort, now covers more than 1.3 million homes statewide, the highest count since the wake of Hurricane Andrew. In just the last quarter, Citizens' policy count climbed 4.6%, a sign that private carriers are still retreating. But Citizens comes with strings attached: tighter coverage limits, higher deductibles, and the looming risk of special assessments if a major storm hits. Condo associations, forced onto Citizens after private non-renewals, pass the pain directly to residents through special assessments and ballooning fees. In some buildings, the insurance bill alone can top $1,000 per month per unit. State insurance regulators hold emergency meetings, promising stability, but the numbers tell a different story. Premiums have doubled in 5 years, and the market's safety net is stretched thin. For sellers, every insurance headline is another reason to pull a listing, wait for calmer waters, or simply give up on finding a buyer willing to shoulder the risk. The insurance crisis isn't just a line item, it's the fault line running beneath Florida's entire housing market. institutional caution now shadows every corner of Florida's housing market. Opendoor, once the most aggressive iBuyer in the state, has spent the past year quietly retreating. Industry analysts estimate that during the downturn, Opendoor canceled as many as 1 in 4 contracts in major Florida metros. In 2023 and 2024, the company's SEC filings document an 81% collapse in new acquisitions year over year. Miami, Tampa, and Orlando, once ground zero for rapid-fire flips, now see far fewer Opendoor listings, as the company slashes risk and unloads inventory at a trickle. The days of instant offers and cash closings have faded, replaced by a backlog of homes that linger unsold or are withdrawn before ever reaching the public market. Invitation Homes, the country's largest single-family landlord, has followed suit. By mid-2023, more than 90% of its new investment dollars in Florida were funneled straight into rental stock or build-to-rent projects. The company's latest 10K reveals a sharp pivot away from buying homes to resell, focusing instead on holding properties off the market and maximizing rental yields. In Metro Jacksonville and Orlando, Invitation's acquisition pace has slowed to a crawl, with most homes either kept as rentals or left off the MLS entirely. This institutional pullback removes a major source of demand from the resale market, leaving more listings to gather dust and fewer buyers willing to pay peak prices. Industry data confirms the trend. The share of all investor home purchases in Florida dropped by over 20% in the first half of 2023. The inventory once snapped up by iBuyers and large landlords now sits unsold, swelling the backlog and contributing to the state's growing pile of stale listings. For individual sellers, the message is clear. If even the biggest players are pulling homes off the market or refusing to chase falling prices, the risks are too obvious to ignore. The standoff isn't just between buyers and sellers. It's playing out in corporate boardrooms and SEC filings, exposing how fragile Florida's market has become when the big money steps back. Nearly 1 in 5 failed closings this year traces back to insurance. Some buyers walk away after weeks of negotiation, drained by the uncertainty and sticker shock. Others never make it to the table, deterred by the risk that a single storm or policy change could double their costs overnight. Sellers, for their part, weigh the prospect of relisting against the reality that the next buyer may face the same hurdles. Behind every failed transaction is a ripple of disappointment. A family postponing a move, a retiree shelving plans to downsize, an agent's commission slipping away. The standoff is no longer just about price. It's about whether a deal can survive the gauntlet of insurance approvals, inspections, and last-minute surprises. The market grinds to a halt, not with panic, but with resignation. Deals fall apart quietly, leaving both sides stranded on opposite banks of an uncrossable divide. In 2025, Florida's housing market saw inventory surge by 24.5%, reaching over 127,000 homes for sale, while the median days on market climbed to 74 statewide. Despite these shifts, 55% of sellers refused to accept offers below 2022 prices, and 60% cited stigma as the main reason to delist rather than cut prices. Insurance instability deepened the crisis, with premiums in Broward County averaging $6,291, and 6 major insurers exiting the state, forcing 1.3 million homeowners onto Citizens Property Insurance. In Port St. Lucie, 18% of listings were pulled, and insurance non-renewals triggered a wave of failed deals. Yet many questions remain. How long can sellers hold out, and what will end the deadlock? The evidence shows a market defined by caution, not collapse, with buyers and sellers locked in a fragile standoff. As documented shifts ripple beyond Florida, the data makes clear: stability in the state's housing market depends on forces still playing out.